if you use this link, which we'll try and put in the chat, it's got lots of information there and links about different type of categories of working part-time, how you can work flexibly, different Q&As about it. And Jonathan and Saeed have been amazing at putting all this information on the websites. Thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it. We are running information evening next week, so next Thursday evening. It's from 6 until 7:30. It'd be great if people join if you want to know about thinking about working flexibly in the future or have some questions about it. We're going to talk through what it means and have lots of Q&As at the end so you can ask all your questions. And please try and promote it amongst your hospitals if you can. We are hoping to try and extend the paediatric family project. So as well as mentoring paediatric ST1s and ST4s, we want to try and mentor new flexible working trainees. We can answer their questions and help them with their queries when they first start working part-time. We're going to be building on that in the next year. And lastly, as a group, we offer conflict resolution. So if you're a trainee that's working flexibly or going to work flexibly, you're having an issue with your rota, an issue with anything else around it, you can come through Saeed to the rest of the group and we will help support you through it. And as an intermediary when you're having problems, and share our own experience as well. Right, thanks Marietta. So next we're going to move quickly on to some short interviews about Jonathan's and my work-life balance, or lack of it.
Sorry. I'm struggling with my screens, but just bear with me for 1 second. Yep, I think have I stopped sharing?
No, you're still sharing at the moment.
You're still sharing your screen. You're just not.
Have I stopped now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you can see that IT is not my strength, but here we go. So what we thought of exploring the sort of thought-provoking two brilliant speakers sort of thoughts and comments about what work-life balance means. Pri, do you mind showing Claire first, because she's going to go first and Jonathan second. So I'm really grateful to Jonathan. When I spoke to you about running this day, Jonathan helped getting Jill to talk to us, and he very kindly offered, along with Claire, who I'm going to introduce in a second, that you are going to answer some hard questions about work-life balance. I'm no BBC reporter, but here we go. So Claire Bell is a post-CCT paediatric consultant. Started her consultant job 3 weeks ago, if I'm correct, Claire? Yeah. Week 3 this week, yes. At the Royal Free. So I chose Claire because she has gone through the whole sort of paediatric training in London, and to share what her experience of work-life balance is. So there will be a set of questions to both of them. So Claire, what does ideal work-life balance mean for you? By which, I mean, where does work end and where does life start?
So I thought ages about this question when you sent it to me, and it's something I grapple with every day. And I think being a parent and trying to work, I find really, really challenging. So my ideal work-life balance would be to properly work during my working hours, whatever that shift happened to be, and fully ingratiate myself in work, and then leave work and come home and not think about it too much. So just work during my working hours. I'd have set time off. I wouldn't be looking at my phone at work or ignoring my children or doing anything else. I'd have really, really set boundaries. I'd always have plenty of time at work, do everything I want to do at work. I have time to do my admin, have my meetings, do everything I needed to, rather than it spilling into my home life.
Thank you. And how would you rate, based on what you just told me, your current work-life balance?
So I'm going to answer as a trainee, because I still feel like a trainee. I still feel like a complete fraudulent consultant. But when I was first in SHO, I really focused on work. I stayed late to do procedures. I used to do audit in my free time. I really focused on my career for those first few years of being an SHO and a baby registrar. And then I had kids. I started working at 60%. I was at home a lot, and I still worked hard, But my balance really shifted, and I felt like a parent first and doctor second for quite a few years, actually. I saw my kids grow up a bit. And then about a year and a half ago, I got near the end of training. I almost switched back a bit. I thought, actually, I want to finish training. I want to really push my career forward. I want to do extra things. So I started at that point letting all these extra things seep into my life. I'm working full time for the last 6 months. I spent a huge amount of my home time working, having meetings, Zooming, doing projects. So the balance totally flipped in the last year or so towards work loads compared to my previous life where I worked much less. At the end of my training, I felt I worked far too much for Edge. I barely saw my kids. When I was part-time, I felt I didn't work enough. I was too much a parent. So I'd never hit the right balance really in my career. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm really hoping as a consultant I will hit that balance at some point.
Thinking back about your career, Claire, what are you or were you able to do to improve your work-life balance?
So I tried really hard to ring fence my days off, so I wasn't doing work things. I tried to say no. It was much easier pre-Zoom, where you could say no to all meetings, no to anything else on your days off because you weren't physically there, and I could say no to any of those things. I was really strict about what projects I took on. I took on a minimal amount of extra work, enough to keep my CV going, but not so much I felt overwhelmed. I really prioritised my kids. Recently, I've tried to look at the digital well-being because I think it's a huge problem in my life. I try to put my phone away in the evenings. My WhatsApp groups are muted. I try to minimise my WhatsApp presence at work, not look at my emails too much in the evenings, and trying to really step away from work and discuss it less at home. Trying to have more divide between my work life and my home life.
Thank you, Claire. And last question, what do you wish you could have done or you could do to improve your balance?
I wish I could be totally focused at work or at home on whatever I had going on there. Often at work, I'm looking at my phone, thinking of my childcare. Am I running late for my childminder? Is my child sick? Is there COVID at school? What's going on? And at home, I'm looking at my phone, thinking, what meetings am I missing? What's going on? There's no one working tonight. Do I have to go and work? I feel like I'm permanently slightly torn between the two. And a lot of that's because I use my phone too much. I look at the messages too much. So I really want to try and find a way of not having work on my WhatsApp, or I'm going to get different separate second phones. I can have work totally separate. I'm trying to make a really firm differentiation between those two parts of my life. I also want to understand what is normal. How much work should I be doing? Is it normal to work just 40 hours a week? How much should I be doing in my own time? What is normal, and what's acceptable, and what's expected?
Thank you so much, Claire, for sharing the vast majority of your experiences that you had throughout pediatrics. We are going to switch to Jonathan.
Hi, Marietta. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much for offering to answer these difficult questions. So what does ideal work-life balance mean for you as the head of School of Peds, as the DME at your trust, if your bio is up to date, by the way, and as the many roles that you are still pursuing on top of being a clinician, a pediatric intensivist. I never know where to put your cardiology experience.
In the bin. First of all, Marietta, my bio, clearly one of the things I haven't prioritised is updating it properly, because I'm no longer a DME, and I've actually stepped down from that cardiology bit. We can talk about that a bit later on, because that's an important story in there. So I'm actually just only the head of school, and I've got a clinical job and a job at the medical school at the moment. It's only 3 contracts, which is quite low for me. I'm so pleased that actually you got Claire on first. She's a really good interviewee and really thought out on this. And completely opposite to me. I thought I really can't relate to almost any of that, which was actually kind of my first point, because when you sent the questions around, I thought I really don't know how to answer any of those. You could give me a whole bunch of different questions. I'll probably be quite coherent on them. But I found this really, really difficult to prepare for. And I wrote a whole load of things down last night. most of which I've crossed out this morning and come up with some different ideas instead. So it comes across as a bit garbled, but I think I think the first thing to say is that for work, this concept of work-life balance is totally different for the however many billion people live on this planet at the moment. It's a mixture of what you can cope with, what you really want to do, how much drive you've got, how much energy you've got, how many other commitments you've got, how committed you are to those other commitments, and how desperate you are for paid employment. And I'm not sure even in an ideal world I'd want Claire's work-life balance approach, but I really appreciate a lot of people really like that. For me, it's just called life, and a big chunk of that is work. I'm passionate about what I do, both with medical students, trainees, children, and my colleagues. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I probably work about 55, 60 hours a week, but I seem to have quite a lot of time off. And I've been doing that for a long time, but I'm really aware my life is very much not for anyone. I think nowadays I get diagnosed with ADHD because I always have 4 or 5 different things going on. I get bored very easily and try and do something else. So, ideal work-life balance means that I don't burn out. I think it means I have enough time for what's important. What's important to me at the moment is doing a good job clinically, being comfortable with that. It's making sure that the projects I've committed to are going forwards, and a really big one at the moment is the London School of Paediatrics and working with the fantastic trainees here. Another really big, you can't really call it a project, it's my family. My children are kind of grown up now, so they need less hands-on, but I like spending time with my wife and my friends. And the other big thing is challenges, improbable challenges. Usually feats of physical endurance that I'm not sure I can take on. So as long as I've got time for all of those and they can all happen, I'd call that balance for me.
Thank you, Jonathan. And how would you rate your current work-life balance and why?
Really good at the moment, okay, which brings me on to my cardiology story. So one of the kind of general truisms in life, apparently we're happy when just 3 things are sorted out. So one is that we actually do something we really believe in, okay? The second is that we can control how much effort we put into that. And the third is that there's some relationship between effort going in and reward coming out, okay? Generally that's true in my life, but it wasn't in my cardiology clinic, which it was just a mess, mostly from an admin management point of view that I couldn't fix. And so I had to resign. It was a 1 PA of my life. It took 3 PAs to do, but it consumed my life with stress because I couldn't fix the damn thing. And I was completely without power in that situation. So if I can control things, I'm usually happy because then I can wind it down if it's too much or increase it if I need to put more into it.
Thank you. You literally answered my next question about what are you able to do to improve your work-life balance, I think, with this. But if you have any further thoughts.
I think the really important thing, and Claire was coming out with that as well, and I was asking Joe about this too, was really sensing when things aren't right, okay? Because I think it's normal in our sort of jobs, which are responsible jobs, people care about what we do. It should be stressful. Okay, it should be stressful, but it shouldn't be intrusive. And by intrusive, it doesn't mean that you'll never have a sleepless night worried about something. But if it's happening 2 or 3 times a week, that's intrusive. Okay, if it's affecting your relationships, that's intrusive. So you have to have for your own kind of canary in the coal mine that says that okay, things are bad here. You need to do something. But please, guys, expect 30% of your job to not be terribly satisfying. You're paid to do stuff by the government that perhaps isn't terribly thrilling, but that's 30%. 70% should be quite enthralling and exciting and rewarding. And so just have a think about that and have a think about, well, actually, can I tolerate this? Is too much really unsatisfying? And think about what your own canary is.
Thank you, Jonathan. And my last question is, what do you wish you could do to improve your work-life balance?
I think listen to my wife more. She's usually got a much better idea about when she's a much better canary than I have, and she said, "Look, you're probably doing too much at the moment." She thinks this week's a bit too much, which is why I'm going to make sure I finish our conference meeting fairly rapidly and get home, because she's usually right on what I can take on. But for each of us, we'll have something that is that indicator that we really have to listen to. And it's important that we do that in a timely manner. Otherwise, we end up going too far and really burning out.
Thank you so much, Jonathan and Claire. Very useful and actually very insightful wisdom from both of you. So what we are going to do next with all of the two speakers before this and the interview candidates, we are going to break into breakout rooms. And the questions to explore are going to be exactly the same to you. Every single group is going to have a facilitator by the flexible working group. And literally the questions are exactly the same. I'm more than happy to put them into the chat in case if you need a reminder, but it is literally, what's your ideal work-life balance? How would you rate your work-life balance?